What's up, everybody? Welcome back, and welcome to those of you that are coming here for the first time. Today we'll be reading Matthew chapter 16. I'm reading from the NLT translation. Without further ado, let's dive in. All right, Matthew chapter 16. One day the Pharisees and the Sadducees came to test Jesus' claim by asking him to show them a miraculous sign from heaven. He replied, "You know the saying, red sky at night means fair weather tomorrow. Red sky in the morning means foul weather all day. You are good at reading the weather signs in the sky, but you can't read the obvious signs of the times. Only an evil, faithless generation would ask for a miraculous sign, but the only sign I will give them is the sign of the prophet Jonah." Then Jesus left them and went away. So again, here Jesus is kind of talking about Jonah. He mentioned him earlier, right? How Jonah was in the belly of the fish for 3 days and 3 nights. So is the Son of Man going to be in the center of the earth for 3 days and 3 nights, right? Okay, let's continue. Later, after they crossed to the other side of the lake, the disciples discovered they had forgotten to bring any food. "Watch out," Jesus warned them. "Beware of the yeast of the Pharisees and the Sadducees." Right? So if you don't know anything about yeast, the way yeast, you only need a very little amount of it to permeate the entirety of the dough. Right? And we'll see here what he means by that. They decided he was saying this because they hadn't brought any bread. Jesus knew what they were thinking, so he said, "You have so little faith. Why are you worried about having no food? Won't you ever understand? Don't you remember the 5,000 I fed with 5 loaves and the baskets of food that were left over? Don't you remember the 4,000 I fed with 7 loaves with the baskets of food left over? How could you ever think I was talking about food? So I say again, beware of the yeast of the Pharisees and the Sadducees." Then at last they understood that he wasn't speaking about yeast or bread, but about the false teachings of the Pharisees and the Sadducees. Right? So think about this. Very little yeast spreads through the entire dough. It's not like everybody in Israel at that time was a Pharisee, right? There were a very select few. There was not a lot of them compared to the rest of the population. Very few of them spread the false teachings like yeast spreads through the entire dough. So they spread the false teachings to the entire population, making the entire population fall. All right, let's continue. When Jesus came to the region of, and I'm gonna butcher this, Caesarea Philippi, he asked his disciples, "Who do people say that the Son of Man is?" "Well," they replied, "some say John the Baptist, some say Elijah, and others say Jeremiah or one of the other prophets." Then he asked them, "Who do you say I am?" Simon Peter answered, "You are the Messiah, the Son of the living God." Jesus replied, "You are blessed, Simon, son of John, because my Father in heaven has revealed this to you. You did not learn this from any human being. Now I say to you that you are Peter, and upon this rock I will build my church, and all the powers of hell will not conquer it. And I will give you the keys to the kingdom of heaven. Whatever you lock on earth will be locked in heaven. Whatever you open on earth will be opened in heaven." Then he sternly warned them not to tell anyone that he was the Messiah. So I'm not exactly sure what it is that he's talking about, locking on earth and opening on earth and saying will happen in heaven. So if anybody knows, please let me know. But I do believe what he's talking about here, right? So you constantly see Simon Peter, Simon Peter. So Jesus finally, "You're Peter, I'm going to call you Peter." And he said, "And upon this rock I will build my church." So Jesus is considered the cornerstone. And I kind of went over this in some of the previous videos. And the disciples, they're kind of like the foundations, right? The rest of the stones that are going to build the base of the building, right? Base of the church. So what he's saying here, I think, again, this is my interpretation, I believe what he is saying here, that Peter is going to be that foundation, right? Peter and the other disciples, they're going to be the foundation of this rock on which Jesus is going to build his church, right? I believe, again, my interpretation, I think that's what he means here. From then on, Jesus began to tell his disciples plainly that he had to go to Jerusalem, and he told them what would happen to him there. He would suffer at the hands of the leaders and the leading priests and the teachers of religious law. He would be killed, and he would be raised on the 3rd day. But Peter took him aside and corrected him. "Heaven forbid, Lord," he said, "this will never happen to you." Jesus turned to Peter and said, "Get away from me, Satan. You're a dangerous trap to me. You are seeing things merely from a human point of view and not from God's." So here, I'm not sure how Satan was able to either get into Peter or manipulate Peter into saying this, right? But somehow Satan was a part of this, and Peter saying, "Heaven forbid, Lord, this will never happen to you," right? And then Jesus responded, "Get away from me, Satan. You're a dangerous trap to me." So I think this is more on Jesus' human point of view, right? Later on, we're going to learn how Jesus actually did get killed, right? And how terrible and brutal and gruesome it was, the way that he got killed. So once we get more into that, the videos might be a little bit longer, because I'll be showing you pictures and of different items used for killing Jesus, right? And it's terrible. It's very gruesome. The pictures aren't going to be gruesome. The explanation and how he actually died is going to be pretty gruesome, right? So I think this is more on Jesus' human side, because I know personally I wouldn't want to volunteer to go, to go get beaten and killed in a very gruesome way, right? So I think that's why he's saying, "You're a dangerous trap to me," right? Like, don't trip me up. I know what I must do. Like, this is going to be pretty terrible, but I know what I'm going to do. I know what my goal is, and please get away from me, right? He didn't say please. He said, "Get away from me, Satan." All right, let's continue. Then Jesus said to the disciples, "If any of you want to be my follower, you must put aside your selfish ambition, shoulder your cross, and follow me. If you try to keep your life for yourself, you will lose it. But if you give up your life for me, you will find true life. And how do you benefit if you gain the whole world but lose your own soul in the process? Is anything worth more than your soul? For I, the Son of Man, will come in the glory of my Father with his angels, and will judge all people according to their deeds. And I assure you that some of you standing here right now will not die before you see me, the Son of Man, coming in my kingdom." So that's the end of chapter 16 here, right? Jesus does say, and I'm just reading through Romans on my own right now, and there's some stuff here that could kind of feed into this, but I'm not going to go there, because we're trying to learn. We're trying to learn the Bible, right? Chapter by chapter. But I do think, so what Jesus is talking about here when he says, "I assure you that some of you standing here right now will not die before you see me, the Son of Man, coming in my kingdom," right? So I think, again, my interpretation, spoiler alert also, by the way, one of the guys out of the 12 is going to betray him, and then his name is Judas, and then he's going to feel so bad about it that he's going to kill himself before Jesus is resurrected, right? So I think that's what he's saying here, is that some of you, which is pretty much 11 of you, are not going to die before you see me go coming into my kingdom, right? Pretty sure that's what he means. Anyways, guys, this is the end of chapter 16. As always, I love you. God bless you and your families. I hope I see you here in chapter 17. Take care.